What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Joined again by my co-host, episode 2 of our weekly show. SW, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Doing all right, man. It's a good Sunday. Watched a little Final Four basketball last night. Checked out some Duke game, and yeah, man, I got to be a
Nice. I
sports
missed the
normie for the
Duke
night.
game. I caught the end of the Auburn game, but I ended up don't even remember what I was doing, but I passed out early. But yeah, I caught the end to see Auburn choke it away.
Yeah, and Duke choked last night too. They were up by 14 with like 7 minutes left and lost to Houston. So I'm still on the Cooper flag train though, but it was still a good game though. No
Well, that's
complaints.
interesting. Yeah, wasn't really much hype around. I feel like there's way less hype around it this year than there was last year, especially with the women's, obviously without Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the
Like I didn't even know the women's natty was today, and then all of a sudden I was scrolling Twitter like 20 minutes ago, and they were showing Paige crying, and I was like, huh, there
yeah,
was no
that's all
hype
I
on
saw.
that.
That's all I saw too was that Paige was crying. That's the only person I know who's involved in the women's thing now. Um, so yeah, I'm still not super interested in that, but yeah, man, I'm curious to see what Cooper does in the NBA, so that should be interesting.
Nice.
Um, But yeah, so if people couldn't tell by the thumbnail that we have up, we're going to be going over the Carmelo Anthony, not the basketball player, Carmelo Anthony, the accused murderer of Austin Metcalf. We're going to be going over that story today. There's going to be a ton of different angles, I think, a ton of different directions this video goes, but yeah, I'm excited for it. So, um, I think the best way to start with this is probably to set the stage for what the facts are. So, is there anything? Let's do it this way. Is there anything you want to say about it on the onset, or do you want to just jump into like
No, I don't really
the
have anything to say about it on the
not yet?
onset.
Okay, cool. Um, then in that case, let me share my screen. We can go over a couple links. Um, yeah, this is going to go a lot of different directions, and I'm kind of excited for this. So that's what we're going to do later. Okay, cool. All right. So what I wanted to do first was kind of set the stage for where Frisco is. So when this story first happened, one of the initial takes I saw from people who aren't super familiar with the area, they were kind of treating it like, those like school fight videos of like black people fighting in schools in some ghetto school or whatever, and it's like some 20-person black fight happening, those videos.
Oh yeah, like I see it with like a lot of the Kia Boys stuff, and like if
Yeah,
you know the area and then you see the school, you're like, ah, yep,
yeah.
not
So
surprised there.
exactly. So how this was kind of sold at first, and when people, it wasn't intentional. I just think people didn't have a ton of info on it. Um, but it was kind of sold as like, oh man, more black violence at a school in the ghetto or something. No. So what's important to point out is Frisco is located in DFW, the DFW Metroplex. Um, so you have Dallas right here, where my mouse is in the middle. And then once you get about up here, you have Plano,
I've
Allen.
always heard Plano was really nice.
Plano is really nice. It's it's where a lot of tycoons live. Yeah, it has an incredibly high median income. Elijah Schaefer actually pointed out, I didn't know this, Frisco actually has the nation's highest median income at I think 146,000. So this is a very good area. So I wanted to kind of push back on that from the start. It's not like this was like a school in southern Dallas and
In
this
Crockett's
kind
district.
yeah, exactly. Her district is down here in
I was
Duncanville,
gonna
South
ask you what it
Dallas.
was.
It's right there where my mouse is, Duncanville. It's not a nice area, not shocking. But yeah, Duncanville and then Frisco is about an hour north of Duncanville. So yeah, great area. And I think we'll get into kind of the socioeconomics of crime later on. But yeah, so just to start off, great area. This isn't something that happens every day, which is kind of why the story blew up the way it did, is because this is something that's
What
um,
school did Austin go to?
so he went to um, Frisco.
Oh, so they're both
Fris,
it's
they're
all
both in,
Frisco.
yes. So Yes, exactly. So there are four different high schools in Frisco. The one that um, Carmelo Anthony went to was Frisco Centennial. Now, I don't know the politics of the high schools, like which is considered the ghetto high school or whatever, but they were at a track meet that involved all the Frisco high schools, which is why they were in the same space or whatever. Um, so yeah, so this is the geography of it, about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour north of Dallas. Great area, high income, um, little to no crime at all. So this isn't one of those situations. So that's important to paint an accurate picture off the bat. Um, so yeah, if we go into kind of what I wanted to do is kind of set the stage of what actually happened, because what we're already seeing from Black Twitter is we're already starting to see the let me
Just
stop
flat out
sharing.
lies.
Yeah, let me stop sharing really quick. Here we go. Well, we're already starting to see from Black Twitter, and this happens in any case, the Trayvon case,
Honestly, this is
anything.
probably some of the worst I've seen.
This is really, it's extreme the extent to which they're lying about this, just blatantly, and that's one of the first things we're going to touch on. So we're already seeing from Black Twitter that they're just willing to lie about the facts of the case. Um, from Austin's medical report to statements made by the police, these things are just getting shared um, at just a dishonest level that's even beyond like what we've seen in the past from these people.
And
So
what I find really interesting is that like you don't even have the Tucker types kind of getting behind it and getting in front of it like normal. Like it's pretty radio silent. Pretty much
yeah,
just feels like I don't know, just like a giant Twitter fight.
yeah. And people have said that Trump should make a statement about this, that it would actually help Trump a lot to not only comment on illegal immigrant crime, and actually focus on like black crime, which is kind of the most
Well,
rampant
I also feel like
crime.
this would be something that, Hannity or Ingram would be foaming at the mouth to get on their primetime show to millions of viewers.
Yeah, I think they're kind of waiting for the facts to come out a little bit. I don't even
Because
think
that's
you
the
really
other
need
thing.
to.
It's really, really quiet,
hmm
like eerily quiet from all angles.
I think that's a good point. This has been a very online, a very, I hate the term terminally online. This has been a very online fight, whether it's the right wing online anon posters or just the Black Twitter people. It's been a very online fight. Um, but I think that's going to change once this goes to court, once it starts to get fleshed out. This is going to be a big deal, so it's important to kind of get the facts straight. So, so the lie that I'm already hearing from Black Twitter about what happened is, well, we can go to Tariq
Well, it's
Nasheed.
changed so many different times.
Yeah, this seems to be kind of what they're going with off the bat. A suspected white supremacist named Austin
His favorite
Metcalf.
line.
His favorite line, he does that even when it's a Hispanic person. He did that to George Zimmerman also. Um, a suspected white supremacist named Austin Metcalf, pictured with his twin, allegedly demanded honor student. Oh, he was an honor student. He's wearing a tie in this picture, so he's beyond criticism, man. He was about to be an astronaut. Allegedly demanded honor student Carmelo Anthony give up his seat like it was the Jim Crow era. Carmelo defended himself from the alleged threat. The Daniel Penny case set this precedent. So what you can
It's
go on
comparing
that.
two different things. That's
Yeah,
what's like kind of ridiculous. Is it's comparing two different things, but I've also heard it twisted so many different ways that somebody was saying that Metcalf went up to Anthony and said, "That's my seat," and then Anthony said, "Make me leave," and
hmm
then the dispute started from there. Now, again, that could just be complete bullshit that people are pulling out of their ass for a good story, but again, this is the thing where we don't know really exactly what happened.
right. And I think there's a reason they're going with that line. I don't think these things are coordinated. I don't think Black Twitter is nearly as advanced or collaborative as right-wing
Because it
Twitter.
doesn't really feel coordinated. It feels like they're just kind of going off the same general creation myth.
Right. And I think that's why you're seeing things from the talking points of like allegedly demanded honor student Carmelo Anthony give up his seat. They're clearly trying to evoke Rosa Parks imagery with this. That's why they're really hammering the he was just a good boy sitting in his seat, and the white man came up and said, move, N-word, or something like that. That's what they're trying to paint. They're trying to paint a Rosa Parks situation for you. That's why they have the picture in the tie. They have the picture of him holding a gun. Any person who's ever gone hunting knows that this is hunting attire. This is not somebody
Yep.
who's in a gang
Well,
representing the
ironically, there's
Crips.
other pictures of Mr. Anthony.
Mr. Anthony holding up guns, and he is throwing up a gang sign in his picture. I couldn't find that picture. We can probably look for it later. I think it's intentional. I couldn't find that picture. They're trying to scrub it, I think, but whatever. But yeah, they're really trying to evoke Rosa Parks imagery here. You have the nice gentleman in the tie. He looks like he was with the ACLU, and then we have some crazy white guy holding a gun. Okay, he's clearly going hunting. So that's totally different. Um, so yeah, that kind of sets the stage for the narrative that they're trying to push here. But
Because one of the things that really stands out to me is like, and it's being ignored, is he had to have had. So let's say he's in his track gear. He's carrying a knife with him in his track gear at an event.
right,
Like, it's not like this was, after school and he just happened to have it in his backpack. Because, some people do carry folding knives with them, and
sure.
it's one of those situations where to have it with him at the track meet is
That
very,
almost
very
suggests
bizarre.
that almost suggests a level of premeditation in my mind. That almost doesn't lend itself to self-defense. If he showed up with a weapon, and we're going to get into this in a second, if he shows up with a weapon and gets in an altercation with somebody who they have a history of an altercation with, that leads me to believe that there's some kind of premeditation here, and it wasn't just, oh man, I was about to die, so I pulled my knife out. I
And I brought this up today how he doesn't have a single scratch on him in the mugshot.
That's a good point too. I didn't think of that. That's a
Like
very good
nothing.
point. It's a very good point.
So that
So,
kind of disproves the whole, oh, they were jumping him.
right, and the jumping thing, that's also being purposefully pushed. I don't think that's real either. But let's go to this. I was sent this by one of my Twitter followers. Um, I was able to confirm that the person who sent me this does actually live in DFW. He does actually have people that send him this message that go to the school and that were there that day. So this is not, I could see the critique being, well, you're spreading things just like Black Twitter is spreading things. I was able to confirm that this is real. So, um, believe me, don't believe me, but I'm not going to dox this person and tell people who they are. But this is the story that makes the most sense to me. So this person was sent this message. It says the details are insane, and when I get home, I'll tell you more. So because it's so sad. It says so. This was sent to me the day of the stabbing, maybe the day after. So what they're saying is that they got in a fight yesterday, which would have been on Friday, um, the
And they
day before.
don't go to the same school.
Correct. They don't go to the same school, but they did know each other outside of school.
Okay,
So
that's interesting.
there is a lead up to this. This was, to be fair to the Black Twitter side, this was not a situation where Austin had never met this kid before and he just walked up and said, "Get out of my seat." There is a history there, but that's also being lied about. So when it says they got in a fight yesterday, they're talking about the Friday before the stabbing happened. So it says they got in a fight yesterday and it broke Carmelo's phone. So he told Austin, "Bitch, you're paying for that." And Austin, being the big kid that he is like, "Yeah, okay, dude, you literally started the fight." So then he told Austin, "I'm going to take your life." One, let's just stop there. Anti-civilizational, zero self-control. I'm going to take your life over a phone. Really?
Well, and it's like if you start to fight, and that's the other thing. It's you're gonna start a fight. This is always the case with them. They start the fight, and then when it comes right back to them, it's they didn't know what to, or they're deer in the headlights. Like, why is this happening to me?
Whoa, I didn't do anything. What? What? Yeah, exactly. So he tells him, "Austin, I'm going to take your life." And Austin laughed. So today, which would have been the day of the track meet, And he laughed. So today the kid really rolled up to the track meet with a 4-inch knife and said, "Let's go to the top of the bleachers and talk about this." So they did, and he talked shit. I'm assuming that means Austin. Or no, no, oh, okay. He talked shit, meaning Carmelo, and Austin laughed and he stabbed him in the chest neck area.
So it
His
was
twin,
on top of the bleachers?
yes, so it happened in the bleachers actually.
Interesting.
If you've seen the body bag they used, like when they cover a dead body or whatever,
Yeah.
that's actually in the bleachers. It's not on the track grounds or anything like that. So what it
Huh.
seems like is he may have approached him. This part I'm just speculating on. He may have approached him in the tent area, but it sounds like they agreed, "Hey, let's go talk about this and settle this up." Austin didn't fear Carmelo enough, it looks like. Carmelo's pride was hurt. Austin laughed at him, and then he stabbed him in the neck chest area. It says his twin brother and dad were there watching the competition and ran to apply pressure, but he died in their arms in the midst of a district UIL track meet with hundreds of parents and schools. Um, what what's your what's your read on that? What do you think
I
about that?
mean, it sounds like it checks out. I mean, escalating a fight to a murder versus, the more mature side was just like, whatever, it's a fight, I'll kick his ass and we'll all go our
Hmm.
separate ways.
Hmm.
And I see, my theory is I wonder if it's going to come out this week and they're going to pivot to mental health crisis, quote unquote.
Mm.
That was something I was thinking
Interesting.
about this morning, that would be the pivot.
Interesting. I could see that. I could see that
Where
because, but no, go for it.
I was going to say, where, and that's why I think it's very eerie how silent it's been from Carmelo's school, where you don't have a statement from his track coach. You don't have a statement from any teachers. Because, the normal way they go about it is, they find one teacher to kind of say, come up with maybe the nicest lie they can come up with. Like, oh, yeah, he was nice one time.
He did a really
Or
good job on his
on
planetary
his
diagram
history or on his
project.
civil rights project. But what I think's crazy is you don't even have the statements coming out of like, oh, he was a troubled kid. We were working on it, and I think that would be the pivot, though, as it comes out. They're going to say, oh, he was very troubled. We were working with him. We were really trying to
Work on
get him in the right headspace.
his
And
aggression, or
yeah,
his
and
upbringing, and this ties into socioeconomics. Yeah,
cause I think that would be the pivot to go on. But again, it's radio silence.
yeah.
Is there even a statement from his school
Not
about
even
the issue
not
saying like, oh, it's a horrible tragedy, and we're not going to comment any further, blah blah blah.
no. There's nothing from his school. The only statements on behalf of Carmelo have been made by his father. Um, and here we can go to that really quick. So the only thing that's been said so far, these are all things we're gonna have to touch on here in a sec. We might need to speed it up, but um,
He just has that look. He just has the look.
I'm sorry, man. I hate to say it. I hate to say
He
it.
just has that. He
Here we
just
go.
has the look where and I made, it's the same joke I made about Anthony Edwards. I made it about George Floyd. Anyone who lives in a city has met them. May not be that specific person, but you have met someone like that.
With that look, I'm sorry. It's not. It just is. It
He
sounds a
literally
certain way,
has the
but it
look
just is.
like the kid that would smack a special needs kid and then be like, "What did I do?"
I ain't even doing that. Why are you arresting me? He's the one that said, but exactly. Um, the only statement we've had so far on behalf of Carmelo is this statement that his dad made. Um, and then this is classic, this situation. Everybody already has their assumptions about my son, but he's not what they're making him out to be. He's a good kid. He works 2 jobs. He's an A student. He has a 3.7 GPA. He was not the aggressor. He was not the one who started it. It's just
So he's like a
classic.
John Morant type.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. In
Because
some ways,
that's the light bulb that went off for me. It's like
in
it's the
some ways,
John
literally.
Morant thing where even with he could like from what it seems like he sounds like a suburban kid.
Hmm.
and with a good upbringing, or with a good upbringing, and then it goes to, kind of like those FBI stats where you compare incomes and murder rates, and it
Hmm.
disproves the whole poverty thing.
Well, and we can go there really quick. We can get back into these tabs here in a sec. That's an important point. I didn't know you were going to go there first. Um, for me, this really just not that it wasn't destroyed already, but this really destroys the whole poverty causes crime thing. If that were
That was
true,
one of the most eye-opening stats, because I'm gonna be real, I did not know that until probably 4 years ago when I got back on Twitter, and then somebody posted the raw FBI data, and it was just like, it's really eye-opening.
so the data goes something. I don't have time to pull it up, but the data goes something like black families that have an income of over $120,000 per year have the same murder rate as white families that make $33,000 or less per year.
I
That really,
definitely, I think it's a sailor thing.
yeah, I think that's true, actually. I think Steve Saylor was originally the one who posted that. But, I just hear that argument all the time that, like, if they weren't in the hood, they wouldn't behave this way.
Magic
Here's
dirt theory.
magic dirt theory, exactly. Here's the thing. In order for Carmelo to attend Frisco Centennial High School, he had to live in the zip code. There are no ghettos in Frisco. There are functionally no ghettos in Frisco. You can drive around on a Saturday night and not have to worry about ever getting carjacked, ever having a stray bullet hit your car. So if that's the case, I mean, shouldn't Carmelo have just been like an astronaut? Why is he in this situation? I guess Black Twitter would say because a white racist forced him into this situation. But I think the story that we read, that first one that tells the breakdown of it, that makes the most sense. That Carmelo felt slighted, he felt disrespected. Austin wasn't fearing him enough and laughed in his face. And then he went, you know what? I'm finna use this knife that I brought to the track meet. I think that's the most likely scenario.
I agree, and it is kind of, I do wonder if it's one of these situations, and this might sound very Libby, but maybe Carmelo did have some kind of schizophrenia or bipolar that wasn't treated, and if you enable it and say, oh, he's fine, because there's the kid tape where nobody wants to quote unquote criminalize him,
Hmm.
so they just say, oh, he's fine, and then who knows? That's what I'm trying to figure out, and what I think is going to be interesting is what
Yeah.
comes out after this. Does he have? Did I say this to you earlier, or was it somebody else? That is he kind of the product of that Obama era? You can't suspend or expel kids anymore thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I, that would, I didn't really think about that. The fact that there's been radio silence from Carmelo's school indicates that that is more likely the case than not. If Carmelo really were this contributing member of society student that
There
we're
would be
told he was,
statements
there would
and
be
all sorts of
statements, there
stuff.
would be video. Oh, this was him in the school play his freshman year, and this was
Or
him.
they'd be saying, "Oh my God, it's so shocking! Like we're all at a loss for words. We
That is a
can't,
good
or we're
point.
processing this."
That is a good point.
Now, if
There
he's a
may be
regular in the
some.
principal office, it's a
Yeah,
whole different story.
there may be some there. That's a very good point. Um, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Okay. So let's jump into there we go. All right. So we have what seems like the most plausible version of the story, that he felt disrespected and that he stabbed him. Because nowhere in this story, this person doesn't even sound like a particularly ideological person. This sounds like a girl wrote this, first of all. It sounds very emotional and it sounds like she's just telling what happened. Nowhere in this story am I seeing Austin tackled Carmelo. Austin said, "Get out of here, N-word," and then shoved him and punched him. No, what I'm seeing here is Carmelo felt disrespected because Austin wasn't taking him seriously and he stabbed him. Is that your read?
My thing is I think Carmelo just might be nuts. He might just be, the classic bad kid sociopath.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
That's kind of my read on it. And
But even if
I'm
that's
going off the how do you say it, physiology or like
oh
what's the well,
physiognomy.
yeah, it's one of those words I've only ever read. I've never actually said.
Yeah,
But
I yeah,
it's
physiognomy.
I'm looking at that and I'm just looking at the face and my read is he could have been that sociopath kid that the school wants to get rid of, but they can't expel him. So he's just going to be a regular in the principal office and always be a problem. And his parents are going to bitch because they can't fathom that, oh, we're doing everything right. We're raising him in a good neighborhood. We're sending him to a good school.
What
He
else
should
can we do?
automatically be a
Right.
better he should automatically be better.
I mean, that's literally magic dirt theory. Exactly.
Because
Um,
that's pretty much my read on it is my guess is he's just a sociopathic piece of shit.
I could see that. I mean, anybody who look, man, I've been in disputes with people. We've talked privately, and I feel like we have like similar childhood experiences, like not in a bad way, but like our childhood, our children, our childhoods were similar. I've been in plenty of disputes with people where I'm like pissed off. Even in high school, you're pissed off at the friend who was, talking crap to you at a party. I've been upset with people, but I've never once had the inclination to bring a 4-inch knife to the next basketball tournament and stab someone. So,
Exactly.
to your point,
It skips right over the whole I'm gonna fight him.
right,
And what I think is also interesting and it's kind of it doesn't seem like Carmelo has many friends.
true. Well, his only friends are Black Twitter. I mean, these Black Twitter is acting like they know the kid, and
And
that
that's the thing, like you don't even have kids from his high school. Like and that's the thing, like I feel like if there was more to it, there would be people because even though they'd be idiots for doing it, but they would be saying, no, he was self-defense. Here's the situation. Let the facts come out. But it's all just random Black Twitter from various corners of the country.
and I feel like I don't know what you think about this. I feel like the friends Austin has, because this Austin was like your all-American guy from what you can tell. He has plenty of friends. I think the friends that Austin has are probably afraid to speak out because they don't want to
Oh
get their
yeah,
lives ruined by
his dad
Black
got
Twitter.
the DOJ call from
His
Community Relations.
that's what I was gonna, yeah, that's what it's called, the Community Relations Department or whatever. Exactly.
That's
Um,
something somebody needs to get to Vance or get to Barron so it can move its way up the chain.
the
'Cause
Community Relations.
I feel like it's one of those classic things with Donald where he's too nice. He's too naive. He's too like, oh, something like that's probably not a horrible thing. That he needs somebody like JD to say, no, this is fucked up. Here's what it actually is.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into the forgiveness angle too much because I have kind of an unpopular take on that. I, I do think as Christians we're called to forgive. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do think as Christians we're called to forgive. What's bizarre to me is the timing. I could understand a father forgiving his son's killer, and that's actually what we're called to do. The
Well, down the
timing,
line,
yeah,
let
yeah,
it
down. That's what I'm
process.
saying. To do it a day later is something I can't fathom that. That seems, and I'm not saying it's wrong to forgive the killer. What I'm saying is that the timing is bizarre and that nobody's first inclination on the first interview they do about their son getting murdered is to say, I already forgave him. It's bizarre, and it seems like there's a third party in the middle there
That doesn't
facilitating that
happen
apology.
without coercion.
Yeah, there's something there. It's not the forgiveness itself that I have the problem with. It's the timing, and it's the fact that there's an intermediary there forcing that to happen, I feel like. That's just my take. Um, so let's jump to this. So, okay, so getting back into how they're just blatantly lying. We don't have to read this whole thing, but some of it is important. So I had to look this up. David Shilson, name at the top, is the name of the police chief in Frisco. That's his real name. I looked up his picture and everything. And I saw this. Somebody who's a total shitlib sent this to me as proof that I was wrong for jumping to conclusions about Carmelo. And she sent this to me and said, well, you don't know all the facts and you're spreading misinformation. Here's what the actual police chief said. And it says authorities are still investigating the recent stabbing of Austin Metcalf that happened in a track rally. However, it has come to our attention that a number of far-right bloggers have been spreading misinformation on social media about the incident or intentionally omitting details and circumstances that resulted in the stabbing. Right there, when I read this, even before I show you what I'm about to show you, something was off to me about this. I was like, a police chief doesn't speak this way. This is way too
unless it's a
editorialized.
D plus 12.
Yeah, it's very true. Unless we're like literally talking like Baltimore. Like if this happened in Baltimore or something. Like this is not coming from a Frisco police chief. You have all kinds of syntax errors. Far right is capitalized. You have just sentence fragments here. So, just for clarification, comma, capital we, would like to reiterate yet again that this, capital this in the sentence, was not a random or unprovoked attack. A police chief would never make a statement like that. I'm
Well, he
sorry.
wouldn't say far right. He would
He wouldn't,
say
exactly.
internet. He would say internet conspiracy.
Yes, exactly. And he wouldn't, there's too many syntax errors. And then when we get down here, this is what just threw
Of
me. I
course, it's a
was like,
Facebook. Of course, it's Facebook, the pits of the
yeah,
internet.
exactly. And it says the exact same misinformation was also spread by right-wing media in states outside our, see, it's just syntax
See,
outside
it's also way too
of,
long.
exactly. This
Way,
is
way
not,
too long. It would be way shorter. It would just be a simple shut the fuck up. We
yeah,
don't know what happened.
exactly. Like we ask all media to respect the boundaries and wait for all the facts to come out. Something like that. We have none of that here. We have pure
Like you
editorial.
said, unless we're talking Baltimore or like I guess by me I would say somewhere like Dane County, which is like I joke it's where the University was. It's like I tell
Is
people
that
from Texas
is that
it
Milwaukee or
no
something?
it's where the University of Wisconsin is. It's like nine it's three counties over, and it's Reddit. It's basically like if Reddit were a city.
Okay, got it.
Just the worst, just the most cringe fedora wearing like
So it's like our Austin, Texas or something.
yeah before the tech boom and stuff. It's
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah. When it was
like
truly
I
shit
always
liberal.
joke. It's like they get to espouse all their very woke liberal stuff, but they live in like a 90% white county.
Yeah, yeah. They have the privilege of that of kind of being the
It's
peanut gallery.
easier when like 75% of your city is a university with 34% acceptance rate. I
Hmm.
think it's still that.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so yeah, I mean, I if you're not what do liberals say? If you have low media literacy,
Oh
maybe you
God.
look I know, I'm joking. If you have low media literacy, maybe this post looks totally on the up and up to you, but and then the bottom sentence really gave it away. It said
They can't help themselves from overtyping.
exact bro. Hold on, we'll get that is so true. It says, so that's why we are asking the community to please wait for all the facts. While this incident is obviously a tragedy for our community and for the family, the fact of the matter is that Austin attacked the African American
Nope.
teenager first.
No, 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 no,
Nope.
no, no, no.
No, 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 no.
Fake. Right there.
The fact of the matter is Austin attacked him for fake, fake. And the fact that this is getting shared around, I'll prove it later. They're using this post as proof that Carmelo did nothing wrong. I don't know if they know it's fake. A lot of them
Well,
probably
at
do.
least I respect that the Q-tards take like real stuff and
Real
just
stuff.
overanalyze it.
Yeah, yeah. Q-tards will take something real and extrapolate. This is made out of whole cloth fake. You know what I mean? So we can get out of this. This doesn't matter anymore. So this came out the next day. Frisco PD is aware of a post from a fake account on social media purporting to belong to Chief David Shilson. There you go. That's all you need to
Yep.
know. So boom,
Wait,
that's
go back
done.
to the last picture real quick.
Oh shoot.
Oh, did you already exit?
I did. Wait,
Because I was
why?
gonna say the one thing I noticed now is there was no blue check next to it.
Oh yeah, very true. Very good point. Yeah. And why would he be saying that from his own personal account anyway?
Again, even the police chief of Baltimore wouldn't do that.
Even the police chief of Baltimore wouldn't do that. Exactly. So more lies. more just total fabrication. So what they're trying to do with this narrative, this is the new one I saw today. Austin died from a drug overdose.
Oh, I
Um,
saw that. They're trying to
one,
Floyd it.
yeah, exactly. They're trying to what they exactly. They're trying to pull a George Floyd on it, and they're trying to combine multiple narratives here. They're trying to use Rosa Parks. They're trying to even um, invoke Kyle Rittenhouse a little bit and say, well, you were supportive when Kyle Rittenhouse did it. Look, I'm not the biggest Kyle Rittenhouse guy. I think he's kind of a clown. But to be fair, he was about to get killed with a skateboard by one of the
Well, and the
guys, and the other guy had a
thing with
gun.
this is, it's like it's not like it was a fight where all of a sudden Austin started seizing on the ground and what like and or he got hit in the head and where there's a question. He took a
Right,
fucking knife to the chest. Like
right.
it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, yeah. There's really not much ambiguity here, in my opinion. So this is one of the things they're sharing. This one I was a little at first I was like, oh damn, this is real. But again, after I was reading it, I was like, there's no way. One, they would never release the the toxicology report of a minor.
It would
They
be
would just
leaked.
never do that. Yeah, that's true. They could leak it.
Well, no,
Um,
it would be leaked by somebody else.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
But
That's
it's
true.
funny, like stab wound, secondary. Like I don't know. I think the knife, I think a 4-inch knife going in somebody's chest is probably the primary cause.
They wouldn't put AKA Molly in here. They wouldn't do
Oh my,
that.
no,
They would
nope.
never put AKA Molly. Um, yeah, the whole thing was just off to me. And then sure enough, what happens when I'm getting ready for the show and checking Facebook? Damn it. Ah,
I saw that one post. I didn't know there was already calls to burn the city down.
yeah, yeah. So hold on. Yeah, so it's kind of happening again, just like we're getting Floyd 2.0 here. They are threatening to burn down Frisco. Now that post that I showed briefly only had, maybe 60 or so likes on it, but still the sentiment is there.
Well,
Um,
this is one of the most like vicious I've seen them on Twitter, at least as
yeah,
far as
they're
Black Twitter goes.
they're being
This is the most
particularly nasty.
underhanded, nasty, vicious I've seen them.
Yeah, they're being particularly nasty with this
Like
one.
they're basically gloating.
Where is it?
It's like my read is it's basically almost like a victory march or victory walk, but they don't want to come for some reason they don't want to come right out and say that.
Here we go. Found it. So this is from, wait for that to go away really quick. Damn it. There we go. So yeah, Frisco Police Department is aware of an image circulating on social media purporting to be a report from the Collin County Medical Examiner's Office. At this time, the report has not been released, therefore any so again, it's just totally fake nonsense. You know what I mean? I mean, I know I probably didn't need to pull that up for you to know that it was fake, but um
Well, no, they're getting in front of it and saying it's obviously fake, even though anyone, like you said, with media literacy, knows exactly why it's fake.
media literacy, man. Hey, the libs might have been right about it. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, so we have okay, so we've set the stage for what really happened. We're going through just the fake news, the fake narratives that they're pushing. The fact that they're trying to combine multiples. They're trying to combine a little bit of Trayvon Martin, a little bit of Rosa Parks, a little bit of George Floyd. And what they're getting off and a little bit of Kyle Rittenhouse, what they're getting off on doing is trying to use conservative arguments that they feel attacked by and throwing them back in conservative
I
spaces.
I'm wondering if they're even conscious they're doing that.
I was wondering that too. What do you think about that?
I'm 50-50. Part of me thinks they might literally just be that fucking stupid and they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah. I was wondering that too. I don't know how conscious it is on their part. The only reason I say that they're self-aware enough that they're consciously doing it is because I've seen a lot of takes from Black Twitter saying white people need to stop complaining about black crime and pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I saw some big Black Twitter account. I forgot who it was.
The
I,
Bryson,
it was it might have I think it was Bryson actually. And he's a good guy, he's a Christian guy, just yeah. Um I think it was him who said that actually. He said like conservatives need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and stop complaining about black crime. Whoa, dude, you just used a Republican talking point against white
and
people.
it's
That was
and
epic.
it's done in such a lazy way
It's
too.
so lazy
But
because
like
that doesn't even apply here.
I really do think that maybe it's like Inception where in the back of their mind they heard all the reverse talking or the talking points and now they've reversed it but they don't even realize they're doing that.
Yeah, I would say for the ones at the top, like Tariq Nasheed, those types, I feel like they're very aware.
And again, like he's a bit of a character, but I don't want to say he's not a complete idiot because he is a complete
He
idiot,
is
but he's not a
it's
drooling idiot.
he's not a drooling idiot. I
He's
like that.
he's an idiot, but he's smart enough to be devious.
Yeah, he's smart enough to know what he's doing when he's pushed. Like I feel like he intentionally said they asked him to move from his seat. That is intentionally invoking Rosa Parks. That's intentional there. I don't feel like that's just an accident. I feel like Nasheed knows pretty well what he's
Well, and
doing
then
with
the
that.
other thing is like I think they're trying to do the trolling because they saw people do the trolling with
With
Floyd.
Floyd, right,
But the
right.
thing is, it's like, and this is what, and somebody brought this up recently where somebody was like, "Why are y'all so obsessed with him?" And it's
I
like,
saw that.
because he had a like we were all locked in our homes and he had a multi-city touring funeral with a gold casket. So yeah, people are gonna be a little bitter.
Why were we obsessed with him? Why were you building statues for him and built and burning down cities in his name? And it's so funny the revisionist history. They want to act like they didn't see Floyd as a martyr. I went to the BLM rallies and I went undercover to film them. No, they were chanting for George Floyd. Like you don't get to burn down a city and then retroactively go back 4 years later and say it wasn't even about Floyd. Nope, I'm pretty sure it was all
It's
about George Floyd.
well, in my thing, and this is, well, we won't get too sidetracked on this,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
because like I always kind of go after the doom, not go after, but I always kind of take exception when the doomers find a new story and they're like, oh, round two. And I think the point that gets annoyed or ignored is that was the product of people being stir crazy.
Hmm.
And I don't think you can really recreate that again. And I guess this is more being optimistic because it really preyed on people not when people have a daily life,
Hmm.
you're not going to get that. You're just going to get a bunch of boomers like on the weekend, like all it's been in the news. You're not gonna get a turnout like that when people have normal lives. And I don't want to get too far into a tangent on this because
I'm
I
a
could talk
little,
for a while.
yeah, I'm a little less optimistic than you on that because a lot of these black people don't have lives. I agree with you about the stir crazy part. I think the stir crazy part more explains the right wing pushback against Floyd. The stir crazy part doesn't explain the black people marching in the streets because they didn't have jobs already. These people aren't like gainfully employed. They work at
But there was no restaurants to go to, there were no clubs to go to, no gyms to go
maybe,
to. Like I mean,
maybe.
even from my thing is it was truly was like a stir crazy thing. But again, that's a whole
Yeah,
separate
yeah, yeah.
rabbit hole.
We could do that. We could do a separate show on that. Um, let me do this. Okay. So we have the medical report, found out it's fake. This one, you know, I hate this tone. It's so annoying. Now, Frisco Police Department, don't get y'all little city knocked down. Make this right because it's some real steppas from Frisco all the way down to the cliff, talking about Oak Cliff, and
Well, I think
75 is a
this
straight
kind of goes
shot.
back in what we were talking about. I don't think they'll get traction on this because it's a lot
I don't
easier
either.
to defend or to march in honor of a dead person than somebody who's in jail for murder.
Right, right. Um, Also, Frisco is too far from from the actual city center. Um, it's too conservative of an area. I, the police wouldn't let it happen. Even if something were to happen, it would get shut down really quickly. That's not going to happen here. And like you're saying, this isn't the kind of case they want.
Yeah, there's no good optics.
there's no good video of him saying, "Austin, please, don't hit me, man, please."
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
not, and again, it's not like he's the mugshot. He's covered in bruises with a broken nose.
right, right. So that's a good point. I think that that's why they're so dependent this time on the narratives and having to try to link it with Rosa Parks or George Floyd, the meth thing. I think that's why they're having to do a lot more lying this time because there's not really like the money shot. It's kind of uh, cruel a cruel term to use in in a case like this, but there's not like a money shot where it's like, oh, that's the shot where his knee was on his neck, and that's
It's
going
not
to
like
be our
they chased him down the bleachers and cornered him in a in the locker room somewhere away from
yeah.
everybody.
And there's not even the claim that that Austin and his brother were like racists or anything. I mean, I know Tariq Nasheed is doing that, but if Austin were like, even if he were like a
They would have
Tucker
found his
Car
burner.
yeah, or not even that. If he like loved Tucker Carlson or
They
loved
would have
like
found it.
Dan
Even
Bongino
if
even.
he would have posted even a Ben Shapiro video on his
Exactly.
Facebook, it
If
would
he
have been
were
found.
if he were a Daily Wire guy, we would know by now. This kid seems like just a normal white kid. Actually a high achieving white kid, honestly. Um, so yeah, I don't think they have anything to go with here. This is wishful thinking from Black Twitter. I think what bugs me the most about takes like this is they assume they have more power than they actually have, and expect people to be
Well,
afraid of
I
them.
think they're drunk with power,
Yeah,
and I
very
think
true.
that's one of the results of 2020 is there's almost a drunk with power attitude.
Very true. Um, but it's going to brush up against reality here pretty soon because the right wing is not against racial consciousness in the way they were before George Floyd, I think.
I think it's very much changed, especially with kind of people our age and younger,
Hmm.
where I think it's gone away from the, I guess as Bannon always calls them, the country club Republicans.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's becoming more,
For better or for worse.
yeah, it's
You know,
becoming
for
more or less like more Jared Taylor,
yeah, yeah, very true. There is
which I
just
think I think Taylor is really smart, and I mean, obviously everyone has their own flaws to ego when it comes with
sure,
like the internet fame, but I do think he's really smart and data driven on a lot of stuff.
absolutely. There's nothing that Taylor says he's like a better version of Steve Saylor, honestly, when it comes to this kind of stuff. But there's nothing that he says that is hateful, that is filled with spite or vitriol. He's just
Exactly.
pointing to the stats, and if you're looking at the stats, there's nothing to correct him on. It's factual. You can debate about the why that is. Why is the crime rate higher? Why are they like this? I lean
Did
more
you see
towards
that?
biology, but
Did you see that dumb chick who posted about the libraries?
oh my, yes. Who's been going
I
off on that? Homath. It's Homath has been going off on her.
well,
Um,
she isn't. I don't. She's really fucking weird. I saw her account like months ago, and it was just one of those immediate red flag things where I'm like, this person's nuts. And then
so
I go, why the fuck do I have 200 mutuals with her?
so what was her take that if you put libraries in the ghetto, you'll lower the crime rate, basically?
Yeah, and then when everyone mocked her, instead of just, she could have lied and said, "Oh,
She
I was
doubled
just
down.
kidding." She,
Right.
she's one of these Lisa Simpson types that she's been convinced her whole life that she's probably been told she's a genius her whole life, So when she gets mocked, she doesn't know what to do. So then she doubles down. It's like, you're all the idiots. I'm the smart one.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's just no humility there. I mean, it's kind of the same with BLM and Black Twitter, just the absolute lack of humility. Um, so let's see if there was anything else. I think we're kind of getting to the end here. It's a pretty lengthy video. Good stuff.
Yeah, we don't really have, and that's the thing. We've kind of reached the end on what's public knowledge and what's known.
Right, right.
Because
Um,
I mean, at this point, all we can really do is wait for. I'd assume this week more would come out.
yeah, I think we'll see more in the coming week. Yeah, I mean, this just ties into what we were talking about, how they're trying to tie it into um, the Kyle Rittenhouse narrative. Again, completely different things. It's not even
Like
worth
one was a
comparing.
track meet, one was the middle of a riot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And one, I mean, again, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Kyle Rittenhouse. I think he's kind of goofy, but I mean, to be fair, those leftists did have like guns on them also that they were going to kill him with. So
Oh yeah,
it's pretty obvious what was going on there.
and that's
Uh,
one of those media literacy things that's really funny because pretty much every single person on the left complaining about it had zero facts on the entire matter.
yeah, yeah. I
Like
mean,
it was completely retold in a way that, from their perspective, that just it straight up didn't happen that way.
right. And I think on this case, I mean, they're doing it really clumsily, but I do think the what they're trying to do with all these lies and the fake posts and just the misinformation, because the misinformation is coming from the left on this one. It's not that they have no facts, they just have wrong facts that they're pushing, which is like Austin punched him in the face and then he was on his back and then he stabbed him, like that kind of
And I
stuff.
think it's partially just being antagonists because they see it's something that makes their enemies angry, uh, and they're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, let's just needle them because of it."
they're really getting off on like the anger, and that's another take I've seen from Black Twitter is just like laughing at Austin's death, like the he
Well,
fucked
I saw
he fucked
one where
around and
they
found out.
photoshopped his head
George
onto Floyd's body and
and
Carmelo's
then
head onto
Carmelo's on to
Chauvin's.
Chauvin's. Yep, they're getting off on that. I,
It's just cheap heat.
it's cheap.
It
It's really cheap because the thing is that on the right, you're never going to see, for better or for worse, again, you're never going to see a march uh, honoring the life of Austin Metcalf. What people on the right are tired of is the anti-civilizational behavior. The fact that you can't even go to a track meet in a city that has $150,000 median income with and not worry about your kid getting killed. You
because
can't go to the nice mall and not worry about getting
well,
robbed in the parking
fucking
lot.
all
That's what's
malls
getting old.
now.
Yeah, that's
And
what's
that's the
getting
thing.
old
I
to
think
people.
everybody has daily experience or life experience. Like I was going to bring up how I've been playing basketball pretty much since I was 18 all throughout my 20s. And I used to be able to go to really any court, any court. And granted, there were some I chose not to go to, but I noticed after 2020 a
Mm,
very hostile attitude where before it would almost be like jovial, like, oh, these white boys can play with us. And they would have like a more fun, laughing attitude.
hmm.
And then kind of post that, it really becomes like you get the look of what the fuck are you doing? And this isn't even like ghetto courts. These are like normal. I wouldn't necessarily say suburban courts, but like courts in reasonable parts of the city.
Yeah. Um, in the same way that, so I think the Floyd revolution caused that. I think almost directly that
Exactly. It's
it
weird
caused that.
how like it's almost like people that I used to be able to laugh and joke with changed on a dime.
Absolutely.
And it then more there became this weird hostility overnight almost.
Yeah. What I don't think they're ready for though is the backlash to the backlash. I think
Yep.
I think the right wing and white, I mean, say it plainly, white people are going to start to have a reaction to this kind of stuff.
That it's funny. I just saw a clip today. Ironic, I think it was on Instagram, like we were joking around before the stream, where it was Nick's take on this, and Nick was saying like you're not ready for what that looks like.
Oh yeah. That's not the one I have pulled up, but I know exactly what you're talking about, where he's
He
like,
was being he was being a little more pointed on that one, but he was right.
but he's
And
100% right. They're not ready for what the actual backlash looks like. And, I'm not trying to
well, and
be
that's
like
why I
some,
laugh when people try and talk about make the comparisons to South Africa and the US because the numbers are just reversed.
right. Yeah, that's a really
And I'm
good
not
point.
saying there isn't
And they're,
important stuff to look at from
sure,
that, but the reason I just don't take it fully seriously is just that it's just numerically, percentage wise, not as likely.
it's just not really comparable. And you also have a much more armed population here. And I know people make jokes about, well, the boomers, they're not even going to do anything with their Second Amendment. Yeah, but if BLM rushes in their home, yeah, you are going to see a lot of that.
See,
So,
that's the thing. Most of them, see, that's right. Like, and I disagree with anyone who would say that because, like, I think it's actually a problem that some boomers are really wound tight and are almost waiting for that opportunity.
right, right. I mean, look, it's not lost on me, man, that Black Twitter is, they've kind of pointed this out even more than right-wing Twitter has. They've noticed these white people are just saying this because they want a race war. I don't think white people want a race war,
I
but
don't
I
either,
think
and
if you
that's
bring it
why
to their front door, they're open to
if
it.
you
If you
force
keep
it,
pushing them,
exactly, it's one of those things. If you force it, then
they're
yeah,
not
it's
going to turn
gonna.
it down. They are not going to turn it. I don't think they want it. I don't think that Tucker Carlson is out there saying, haha, time to push race war.
Well,
I
and I
don't think he
think
wants that. But I think
you
if they keep
also have.
pushing,
Oh, sorry.
no, 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 no,
I was
go.
gonna, I was gonna say you also have the people who like one third party in this whole discourse is you have the do not take the bait. This is all propaganda to pit us against each other. So like I think, and this goes to what you said, like yeah, they don't want it, but ultimately people can only be pushed so far.
And I think we're starting to see that point dude, when you're starting to get into very nice cities and see violence that people aren't comfortable with, like at a high school track meet, you can get into the context of what happened. Well, what did Austin say to Carl? The fact is that somebody was stabbed to death at a track meet in one of the nicest cities in America, and white people are left thinking, I'm not even safe from these people at a track meet, a high school track meet in one of the nicest cities in the country.
So I
That's
did
gonna
have some
evoke a reaction, man.
because there was something I did want to talk about in a future stream about how I think a lot of the perception that being to the left is the norm is based on fear. And I think, the general election is a great example of a lot of people probably are different behind closed doors in their home,
Hmm.
where there's more honesty there. But in public, they kind of play the dumb, happy wanderer, like, oh, let's all get along. But, if you talk to them or, you hear what they might talk about amongst them, when how do I want to phrase this? Like behind closed doors,
More
they
candid.
wouldn't be like yeah, they're more candid. I'm not saying they're watching Nick's stream and
Right, right,
going to work with a fucking pride flag on their desk, but
right.
there is a little bit more of and I ironically it was actually Cernovich who said this. I hate giving him any credit, but he said we're a more naturally conservative country than people want to admit.
That's a good point. That's
But
very
I
true.
think the issue is the left is scarier. So people always, if they're normies and don't want confrontation, they're going to side with the people that have power to ruin their life.
Sure. And I
And
mean, that explains why women are bending left because they are more subject to power itself. So
exactly.
that's why women were the main ones posting the black square during 2020 because the power was was within the left.
Well, and
They were submitting
through
to the
them,
power.
they're a lot more susceptible through, and this is going to sound really mean, but they want to be like celebrities.
Yes,
So to get
absolutely.
them, you just go through celebrities. Where
Right.
I think with men specifically, they're going to side with whoever has the power to take their job away.
Hmm.
Or if maybe, like I cracked, like the joke was when people were or like those ads during the election where they're like, it's private who you vote for. And then all the ones where the women would go to the polls and secretly vote for Kamala, even though they didn't show that.
Hmm.
But I think that's a bigger problem where I think men are more scared to tell their wives who they're voting for.
Yeah, I wouldn't say wives. I would say I see what you're saying. I would say that they're not as afraid to tell their wives who they're voting for. I would say they're more afraid of telling the girl they're dating on Hinge who they're voting for. They're afraid to tell their prospective wives who they're dating for. There was a
You
Hinge
would be
conversation.
surprised though. Maybe I just know some really lame ass people though.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just kind of basing it off of I guess I'm basing it off of personal experience because the
Well, this
guys I
kind of
know are.
reminds me. I was going to tell the story last time about. I think I had texted you about the record scratch moment at my fantasy baseball draft.
Oh no, you didn't. Oh, if
I
we,
started to tell you that. So, and this kind of goes exactly with what we're talking about. So, long story short, the league we're in is it's a keeper league. So you can trade draft picks,
uh-huh.
and somebody had traded a bunch of draft picks, and this one dude who wasn't there. Mind you, this is 8 dudes in a basement, and one dude types in the chat, why does that fag Jack have so many picks? And literally all the dudes in the room started nervously scratching. A few started performatively like making an outraged look. Nobody knew what to say.
No.
One person, like two people do like a joking Sopranos, oh, and then like, but nobody knew how to take it, and they were all like sweating nervous, and like I could tell one, two dickheads were they were looking to read the room to try and grandstand, but literally like something that minor sent the room into like the most and I just let out a loud laugh because I thought it was funny, but they were so
Wow.
nervous, like as
Ma-
if as if their wives were there watching, or if they would
Right.
have laughed, they would have walked in the door to a scowl.
Yeah, it's damn, dude. That's very telling. That's funny. I mean, that's just being a simp at heart though, because they're not actually offended at that. They're offended at the idea of their wife seeing
Exactly.
that they weren't offended by it. It's like
And
secondary offense.
yup, and see,
It's not
I
that they
talked about
care.
that. And that's in my opinion, that's a huge problem with millennials. Whereas boomers are very and Gen X were kind of sincere in the sense that they'd like say what their wife wanted to hear, but then if their wife turned their back, they'd make a face to you and just be like, get a load of that shit.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
with millennials, it's almost like there there's like a fear that if they laugh at that, their wife will find out, then their wife will basically divorce them because her friends will find out, and then she'll be labeled some Fox News boomer.
yeah. I think it's also kind of this thing with millennials where I don't feel this way, but there's always a fear of your text getting leaked. So like if you
Yep,
laugh or if you don't sufficiently shut down bigotry, then somebody's going to take a screenshot and the next thing you know that's on the internet. So they try to get ahead of it basically by performatively being like I may have been in that group chat, but
yes,
I didn't like that.
exactly.
They
Like they
even
they
when there's
like,
no even when there's no fear of that, even
and
with your when you're with 8 friends you know won't screenshot you,
there's
they
no
will
paper
still
trail of it.
pretend to be
It's
afraid.
literally just something somebody read, and it's one of those things where like I did, I just laughed, and like you don't have to be quote unquote based and like really go with it, and you just
It's
kind of like
you
go,
just
ha, that's funny,
you
and then
just do-
move
all
on.
you just have to not shoot it down. That's really all you have to do.
But
Like,
there was like a very weird, like it was each person had a different reaction, but like each react, like two people were kind of more pretending because they were flaming libs, but they had a more they were outraged look, but then when they saw that other people
Uh-huh.
were kind of, I don't know, it's weird. It wasn't like it would have been more sincere if somebody would have just if they would have just grandstanded and been fucking pussies about it
Yeah.
and whined, but they were like half trying to be they were like half making fun of the situation, but also like at the same time letting it be known that
That
they're
he
against
didn't.
that no word that was said.
That's so funny, dude. I mean, yeah, that's really par for the course for millennials right there. I hate to say it.
Well, one
But
of the funniest things is so I've never met this dude. I think it was last year, he was just hammered after like a birthday party or something, and he was in the group chat. I don't remember I like do not remember the specifics at all what he was saying, but it was really funny stuff. And then I saw somebody in the league. I went golfing with them a day later, and he was like, "Can you believe the stuff that so and so said?" And I was like, "Oh, that was hilarious." And then, but then this person's kind of a bitch, so that they realized that I wasn't gonna like kiss their ass for grandstanding. So then they were like,
right.
"Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty
yeah, that
funny,
was
wasn't
funny."
it?
So it's like this half offended, half not offended.
But that's why it's important to stand your ground, though. It's kind of funny, no pun intended. It is important to stand your ground with that kind of stuff because people will literally just bend to your will if you just stand your ground, basically.
Yeah,
So,
and you don't have to ruin the vibe or like go crazy with it. You just have to say, "Yeah, I thought that was funny."
yeah,
Like
totally
it
agree.
doesn't take much. You don't have to do a grandstanding. It's just
Right. Yeah.
don't let them kind of control the situation.
Yeah, don't let them win. Don't let them have the moral high ground, basically. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that was a good talk. If you're cool, I'm cool with ending it here if you are, man.
Yeah,
Um,
let the week go by, get some more content.
yeah, yeah, and we can always adjust the schedule. If more stuff comes up, we can do an impromptu episode during the week. We can figure it out. So,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, guys, thanks for watching. You stuck with the whole video, much appreciated. Again, like, comment, subscribe, share. Um, what's your at on Twitter, by the way, so they can follow
uh,
you?
it's
Snow
funny.
Snow Med.
I think it's, hold on, let me pull it up just because it's one of those things that I never even think about. It's at SnowMed34.
At SnowMed34 if you want to follow him. Follow me at Jordan B Videos with a zero in videos. DM us or tag us in any content that you guys want us to take a look at. But thanks for watching, guys. And Snow or SW, I'll talk to you soon, man.
Sounds good. Take
All right.
care.
Thanks. Bye.